Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and the latest edition of USMNT Weekly. On this episode, we're looking at the US players who have been or are making summer moves. Who needs a move? Who's already had one? And where should we send Gio Reyna? My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today to answer these questions and much more, it's your friend, it's my friend, it's the Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor Rockwell. How are you?
Hello, Ryan Bailey. I'm doing well. That is the very new question, but also somehow the age-old question when it comes to Gio Reyna. Where shall we send him? I'm excited to hear the panelists, my co-hosts' thoughts, because it's a murky one. It's kind of confusing. Let's get to it.
Should we sort of develop a theme tune, throw it to the Carmen Sandiego theme, maybe? What do you think?
Yes. How are all of our a cappella skills? We need Rockapella to come in and sing the Where in the World is Gio Reyna and his family. That does need to be some version of the song, I think, yeah.
Well, look forward to that, listener. Joining us also, Mr. Joe Lowry. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm great. I genuinely think our foursome could pull off like some moderately okay a cappella music. That's just the irrational confidence I have. And maybe that's on the back of the fact that last night, this is all true, I had a dream that all four of us were in the same place, like interacting in real life, and that we were all wearing black pants and a green shirt that was identical but was not soccer related whatsoever. It was very weird. It was very confusing. But I think that chemistry is going to bleed into our new a cappella group. Sockapella, maybe soccer-appella?
I like it.
That's good work by you,
It's
Joe.
close. It's not that close.
I was really hoping that was just going to be increasingly specific to You Had a Dream About Carmen Sandiego. Like, yeah, we were all in one place. We were trying to find this one person. She was wearing red with a red hat. Yeah.
Where is she? And nobody knows.
We'll get to introducing Graham Ruthven in a second, but just to come back, Joe.
Yeah.
You got to us being in black pants and green shirts.
Yep.
Then what happened? And is it safe for broadcast?
I think so, because I don't remember a single other thing that happens in my dreams. I so rarely remember anything, and the fact that this did filter its way through now into the public sphere, I think is just a sign of something. I don't know what it is, but I'm excited to find out. Maybe tomorrow we're all showing up twinsies. I don't know what's happening here.
Wow, there we go. Maybe it was prescient of Charlotte FC's third kit launch, which of course is nice lime green. Or is it? Is it yellow?
I think it was more Sassuolo colors, frankly, if I'm being honest.
Indeed. Graham Ruthven, how are you?
Join in. This is the beginning of the soccer pillar. It's Sweet Child of Mine from Step Brothers, by the way.
Yeah,
Ryan, you're Adam Scott.
She's got eyes. Oh, that's such a good scene. That's such a good scene. We're all in our Land Rover cruising to
$5,000 an hour.
So
and
flat.
Still flat.
So flat.
I'm gonna save it.
I've had a carb since 2006, Graham.
We were on a podcast once, and the topic was like best usages of music in a movie, and I think that was my number one answer because it establishes everything you need to know about that family so quickly, including that they're a cappella singing "Sweet Child of Mine."
Yeah,
so good, nicely done, Graham.
I watched that movie recently on broadcast network television where it has all the commercials in it, and it was about 17 hours long. I'm not going to do that again.
Oh no,
no,
that's too long.
Don't do that. What good with you, Graham? Everything good?
Yeah. Perfect. Now that we're talking about Step Brothers, one of my favourite films.
Indeed. We've started strong on this episode. Dreams and Step Brothers. We'll get to the USMNT very shortly, but not before I tell you all about patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. That is the best way to support this here endeavour. You get bonus episodes of the podcast, bonus video content, and access to our Discord server. All the cool kids are hanging out there. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. And of course, if you have the YouTubes on your device, I understand it's on most devices these days, you can see us there. Search us up. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you very much indeed. All right, let's get... Maybe we'll put up a dramatization of your dream at some point on our YouTube channel as well, Joe. What do you think?
We're only doing Sockapella now. I'm in deep on this concept.
Sockapella, there we are. Very good indeed. Let's get to our players on the move, shall we? Joe, shall we start off with Mr. Malik Tillman, who I believe is now in Germany. Certainly has made his move to Leverkusen over the weekend. What do we make of that move for Malik Tillman? I think it was Hercules Gomez on ESPN FC who expressed some concern for this one. What about you?
I think there's some concern intermingled with all this. I think Herc does like to toss out some concern onto the pile at various times, which does move the discourse a little bit further down the field. So I'm not always against that. This is a really exciting move for Malik Tillman. It's a really exciting move as we're viewing all of these moves, I would imagine, through the U.S. men's national team's lens. I think I said over the summer, let me rephrase, I know I said over the summer, that this is a huge year for Malik Tillman. I think he has more to gain in the U.S. pool right now than basically anybody. And one of the reasons for that is because there's clearly a spot in midfield up for grabs for Mauricio Pochettino, right? We don't know who that third midfielder next to Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie is going to be. And Malik Tillman got to start basically every game this summer as the third midfielder, the most advanced midfielder for the U.S. in the Gold Cup and beyond. So there's opportunity for Malik Tillman at the national team level to really stake his claim to just continue where he's been, right? To be that starting midfielder. And the opportunity is not just limited to the national team level. Getting a move from PSV to Bayer Leverkusen it's not the biggest jump you could make from one club to another at like reasonably high level, like from one end of the Champions League spectrum to the other. It's close-ish, right? This is a really, really big jump. And to be the player that has been coming in now to replace Florian Wirtz, not like for like, maybe we'll talk more about the differences in positional nuances and style between those players. But effectively, to have Wirtz go out as this incredibly big transfer sum moving to Liverpool, and then to go and drop your most expensive transfer of the summer, so far anyway, on Malik Tillman, is a pretty clear sign that you have big expectations for Malik Tillman. So I'm not 100% confident that Tillman is going to thrive in the Bundesliga, right? This is going to be a level that we've never seen him play at before. He flitted in and out of games over the summer. That's been his challenge at PSV at times as well. He won't get games off in the Bundesliga, right? There'll be games where Leverkusen have a huge talent edge, but PSV, the gulf between them and the bottom of the Eredivisie is massive, right? Malik Tillman could afford to float through games. He can't afford that anymore. If he wants to be the player that Leverkusen have signed him to be, whether that's a number 8 or number 10, Leverkusen sporting director Simon Rolfs came out and said he can play in both of those spots and was very complimentary, obviously, of that signing. But we don't really know how Ten Hag wants to use him. We don't really know how he's going to adapt to this next level. So there's risk. Of course there's risk. But I think this is a risk that is absolutely worth taking from Malik Tillman, who really can translate this into a major opportunity for him in taking the next step in his career.
I agree on the risk. I agree on how it's not necessarily going to be a slam dunk for him. He will have to put in a lot of work. He will have to be consistently good. Joe, one thing I was struck by, I read a few different Reddit posts from the PSV subreddit with Leverkusen supporters asking what do we make of this? What should we expect? And what I was surprised by was how he seems to be universally beloved by PSV supporters in a way that was kind of astounding to me, as the genuinely saying he's been our best player for the last year, if not 2 years. He's been our most important player. Then there's a debate about is it him or Luke de Jong, and it's him for the way he can kind of facilitate attacks, how there's always heart, there's always grit, there's always determination to his performances, but also technical precision behind it. And the consensus seemed to be you can't replace Florian Wirtz, certainly, but Malik Tillman does a lot of the things in replacing Florian Wirtz at a much better price. And so there is kind of an expectation that he will be able to go in there and do Florian Wirtz things. I am skeptical of that. I'm also skeptical of that because, to a point Joe's made, it's Erik ten Hag taking over. We don't know if it will be the same style and approach, but it does feel like there is a lot of belief that he is going to hit the ground running. And it is a huge jump, but it feels like he's coming from a smart, well-run team that wins a lot and going to a smart, well-run team that wins a lot in a higher league with higher demands, certainly. But I think I come away from reading some of the PSV supporters' thoughts thinking maybe this is going to be a better situation for him, and maybe it's one of those things where a player surrounded by better, more consistent talent looks better and more consistent as a result.
Yeah, I'm much more positive about this move than I am concerned by anything. And I can understand why, obviously, with that change that's taken place at Leverkusen, some people might look at that and think there's an element of the unknown with Tillman going into that club. I kind of flip it the other way and think this might help Tillman, that this really is the start of a new cycle for Leverkusen with Alonso leaving, Ten Hag coming in. It's not just the managerial change. It's Jeremy Frimpong is gone. It's Jonathan Tah has gone to Bayern Munich as well. Granit Xhaka, I think, is expected to leave as well in this summer window. So it's not like he has been dropped into the Alonso team after they've sold Florian Wirtz and everyone expects Malik Tillman to be the new Florian Wirtz. I think there will be a recalibration of expectation, not just for him as a player, but at that club in general. I mean, I don't think... I was reading a blog for what it used to be one of the SB Nation blogs that I think still lives on to this day, from a Leverkusen group of fans, and they were saying we don't expect to challenge for the Bundesliga next season. And so there is the expectations have dropped after the end of that cycle. It also seems likely that Leverkusen are going to sign a winger this summer as well. They had been linked with Alejandro Garnacho until apparently Man United asked for €60 million for him. Johan Bakayoko from PSV, so someone that Tillman knows well, has been linked as well. They like James McAtee, who can play in the same position as Malik Tillman, so he might have a bit of competition for his own spot there. But there is a good chance that some of the creative and attacking burden will be lifted off him a little bit. I don't think they're realistically going to just drop him in and say do what Florian Wirtz did. I think Leverkusen are too smart as a club to do that. But he's going to play, right? He's one of the most expensive players in Leverkusen's history. And they haven't missed on a whole lot of signings recently, so that bodes well. They've lost Xabi Alonso. They haven't lost Simon Rolfs, who Joe mentioned there. That's the sporting director, and he's been in place for the last few years. So, yeah, I think this is a hugely positive move for Malik Tillman.
Yeah, Graham, to elaborate on Herc Gomez's comments, he said, the man in charge at Leverkusen is Erik ten Hag, whom I don't have the most confidence in, so I'm very nervous for Malik Tillman. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, because... Is this like a rehabilitation for Erik ten Hag this season at Leverkusen as well? It feels like there's some ingredients going into this team that could be pretty positive.
If only there was precedent for people coming out of Manchester United and succeeding at other clubs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not overly worried about Erik ten Hag. I mean, yes, I had questions about him at Manchester United. I think he contributed to the problem. But I think Leverkusen have basically just ignored everything that happened to Erik ten Hag at Manchester United and have probably looked at his resume from his time at Ajax, where obviously there's a lot of overlap between how his Ajax team played and the way that Leverkusen want to play and did play under Xabi Alonso. So I think there's a clear role for Malik Tillman to fill in this team. Obviously, he still has to perform to then fill that role. And as I say, I expect he will have a bit of competition for that position in the team. But I think this is a good fit with Ten Hag in terms of how he likes his teams to play, and also for Ten Hag with Leverkusen. I think there's a lot that lines up here.
I like Herc a lot. That feels like kind of a throwaway line of like basically he wasn't good at Manchester United and got sacked. So I have some questions about him. Like, I don't know if he went into the specifics of his tactical approach at Manchester United versus Ajax, but I think if you remove the Man Unitedness from the equation, which I think is a fair thing to do, as precedent has established, and then you look at his Ajax teams and what they were able to do, I think there is a lot of reason for optimism if you are a Leverkusen supporter. And it is him with a point to prove, certainly, and it is going to be a different stylistic approach. He also doesn't, have the beard that Xabi Alonso has, and maybe that would make the difference for him. But I still think it will be a very good appointment for Leverkusen in the long run.
I mean, to be clear, I have questions about Ten Hag at Leverkusen too. I think we all do, but they're not like questions of despair. They're questions of how is this team going to set up? How, in this case, how is Malik Tillman going to be used? And I think that is a really interesting question because the quote from Rolfs about he can play as an 8, he can play as a 10. It is a big difference, and I love, Graham, that you broadened it out to look at Leverkusen's broader transfer activity. It's a big difference between how those guys play soccer, right? Florian Wirtz is by and large a final third playmaker, right? Or at least he does a whole lot more of that than Malik Tillman does. You go through and look at some of the stats from this past season on 2 ball-dominant teams in their respective leagues. And Florian Wirtz is hitting almost a full pass extra than Malik Tillman into the box. He's hitting more than a full pass extra into the final third. He's hitting more key passes. He's generating more expected assists. He is on the ball more straight up than Malik Tillman in terms of just raw touches, and a greater share of those touches coming in the final third versus Malik Tillman having about 8% more of his touches in the middle third than Florian Wirtz does. So they're very, very different players. Like, Tillman is not the same kind of a buzzy, through ball threading, energetic, counter-pressing, dribbly player that Florian Wirtz is. I think he will end up playing a little bit deeper this season. But really, I think for Tillman, he will have a chance to earn a real spot in this team and to be a huge part of this team. I'm curious to see how he adapts because this is uncharted territory.
One other small thing that I think is interesting to note, Bayern did have a buyback clause for him since he is a Bayern Academy player. It was 35 million euros, but it goes into effect next summer, June of 2026. So the clause they had in place now was that they could match the fee. They had right of first refusal, essentially, and they chose not to with him. It will be interesting because that does feel like an area where they could use some strengthening. So maybe they end up regarding that one long term. Maybe they buy him from Leverkusen for 70 million one day, and it all comes full circle.
There we go. Hey, Taylor, good news. Johnny Cardoso, officially an Atleti player as we broadcast. The image that they put on their social media, he's holding a giant flag that looks a bit like the Stars and Stripes, but it's obviously an Atleti flag. By the way, before we get into
Should we tell him that it isn't so he plays well?
I hope he makes the distinction, frankly, because that's an important point.
Bravo.
But perhaps, Taylor, a more important point. Is Johnny one of those people who can go by one name? Is he like Madonna now? Or do we have
a mononym?
Yeah.
I mean, quite the comparison. Is he like Madonna now? Yes.
Good.
Yes, he is.
Very
yeah,
good.
that's
He
it.
is
Hold the flag
dating
well.
Scottie Pippen, so there is that we should probably include in there. Yeah, why not? I mean, I still like Johnny Soccer. I still end up calling him Johnny Cardoso a lot, I think, but Johnny's fine. There have been a few other Johnnies in there, and I'm excited about this move for him. It seems like there was a lot of confusion around the Tottenham purchase clause that they had, and that it was like a 1 month purchase clause period. I don't quite understand what it was, but that seems to have been the reason why this deal ended up getting delayed, because they had to like clear that hurdle before they could then get the deal done. He had agreed to personal terms, I think, before the Gold Cup even began or right around it. And I think it's a really exciting move for him. It's another one similar to Malik Tillman, where I don't know if it's going to be a slam dunk. I have more concerns about this one than I do Tillman going to Leverkusen, because I think Diego Simeone is a little bit screamier of a manager and is going to be a little bit more demanding. It's also worth noting that as of now, Atleti have not lost any, I would say, significant central midfielders so far. They let Axel Witsel walk at the expiration of his contract. What will happen with Rodrigo de Paul will be very, very interesting. He had 23 starts, played 34 games last season in La Liga, so was a very important player for them. So there is an opportunity there if Rodrigo de Paul moves, and even if he doesn't, he is 30-31. Koke is 33, I think. So there is a little bit of age there. Maybe Cardoso gets some looks that way. Maybe he starts right away if Rodrigo de Paul leaves. But I think it's a huge step up for him, and it's one that I think he can handle, but at the same time, we have seen him not always look his best with the USMNT, but it's a similar thing to Malik Tillman, where the question then becomes, is that a Johnny thing or is that a USMNT thing? And I think we'll get a lot of answers pretty quickly when it comes to Atleti.
Yeah, I think the Rodrigo de Paul, what his summer looks like, is almost directly linked to what Johnny Cardoso's fate coming into Atletico Madrid will be, or it could be, at least, because last season it was mainly a double pivot of de Paul and Pablo Barrios. Now, Barrios is the all-round kind of number 8. I'm a big fan of Pablo Barrios. He's the midfielder that Atleti should build around, and it looks like that's what they're going to do. And in terms of his role in this team, Rodrigo de Paul for Atleti was the enforcer. And now he's leaving, so there is a spot for Johnny. And crucially, the player that Johnny was at Betis was someone who's not asked to do a lot on the ball. He is the enforcer in that midfield. He then has players like Isco ahead of him and Anthony for the second half of the season. He can pass the ball onto them to do the creative stuff. And there are similar players at Atletico Madrid for that to work. But there's also Conor Gallagher, and there's Koke and Marcus Llorente can play centrally as well. So there is a bit of competition. I can see why Atleti have signed him.
Good stuff. All right, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to talk about another of the Americans who've joined the English Championship. The contingent is growing. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to USMNT Weekly. Southampton's got themselves a double D, Joe. How about it? Damion Downs now on the south coast of the UK. How are we feeling about that one?
I feel good about this move. It's an interesting one going to the championship. I think we are, at the moment, operating... Champo. Forgive me, Grimm. I have erred. Yeah. I think at the moment we're operating hopefully on a 2-in, 1-out policy for U.S. strikers in the Champo. I prefer a 0-in, everyone out policy, but here we are. I think stylistically, Downs on the back of this $9 million move to Southampton from Colm, I think I could see him doing quite well in the championship, or at least I think there is a world in which this works okay at Southampton. He's tall, he's physical, he can be an outlet, he can thrive in transition. I will say many similar things about Pat Agyemang if and when we talk about him. I am curious to see how much leash Downs is going to get at Southampton, but he's their biggest financial outlay in terms of an incoming transfer of the summer so far. We'll see if that changes. They want to get back to the Premier League. They did not get a lot of high-level number 9 play last season, but they were also tragic last season, as we've discussed many times on this show. So I don't mind this opportunity at all for Damion Downs to go and to develop some in a league that I think roughly fits some of the things he can do, because he is still very raw, right? He is not the finished product, and you don't maybe have to be the finished product to do some good things in the Champo. So I am cautiously optimistic, and at the very least intrigued about this move.
Yeah, Southampton, they used 9 different strikers last season, and none of them really stuck. So that's one. It didn't go well for them. That's one of the reasons I find this move interesting, is there is a spot up for grabs in this team. The second reason I find this move interesting is Will Still. So for listeners who maybe don't know, Will Still is this young English coach who actually credits Football Manager with teaching him what he knows about soccer, and he sort of rose up through the ranks in France, and he's coached Reims and Lens, and now he's at Southampton. Do you know who he coached at Reims? Joe, do you remember who Will Still coached at Reims? That's correct, Flo Balogun, during that season when he got really hot and attracted all that attention. And I do think there are some similarities to how Downs is most dangerous when he can use his pace to attack open space. Now, to be clear, I think Balogun's a much better player than Damion Downs. But Cologne last season scored the most counter-attack goals in the second tier in Germany last season. I think Southampton will have more of the ball than Still's Rem team did, because they still have the Russell Martin muscle memory from last season. Also, they'll have a talent advantage at the top of the Champo. But yeah, Will Still was on Monday Night Football not so long ago. His delivery was absolutely dreadful to listen to him in a press conference situation. He might be the most boring man on earth, but
it's almost
his name is Will Still.
Yeah, here's Will Still, and he learned
nominative determinism
to manage from Football Manager. I feel like
I hope his
those
middle
two
name's
names
Phil,
combined.
by the way.
Will Still.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, he very much comes across as a guy who learned how to coach a Football Manager, which is very much my vibe. That might be why I like him. But if you listen to what he's actually saying, he's interesting, and he was making a big thing on that show about quick transition moments. They spent like 20 minutes on that show talking about his previous teams and how they were able to activate those areas. And so I have to imagine that Southampton, in alignment with this style of play, have gone out and targeted Damion Downs for that reason. So yeah, this is a Southampton team that I think potentially could really be a good fit for Damion Downs this season.
Joe and Graham have covered a lot of ground there quite well. I have a question for the group that relates to this move. Do you all have a line for like when connections, I can't phrase this better, like when connections are more so a construction than they are a real connection? So for example, like Xabi Alonso now at Real Madrid, if he brought Granit Xhaka to Real Madrid, which I think would be a really smart move. Like there's an obvious connection. Managed him last season. Managed him, so you bring him to the next club. But I've seen a few different people make the point that like Mauricio Pochettino started his English management with Southampton, has Southampton connection. So you have to wonder: is there some sort of connection between Pochettino, USMNT manager, and Damion Downs going there? And that feels like a bit of a reach to me.
Yeah, I feel like my arm's getting a little sore from reaching out that far.
Right.
I don't have the wingspan to pull that one off.
Yeah,
I think I would agree.
Poch doesn't even remember that he coached Southampton, I think, these days.
And maybe remembers who Damion Downs is.
I mean, there's Chelsea players that he doesn't know the name of.
Exactly.
There's Chelsea
Well,
players
we
that
can
Reska
forgive
doesn't
that.
know the name of at this
right.
point, surely. Joe, have we explored the fact that you're a bit down or downs on the English Championship, as you sort of noted there?
I mean, I just don't think that it is always the most thrilling league in the world to watch. That's really all it is. There's no deep-seated anti-England bias
you watch
involved.
Scottish football.
Yeah, there are levels to this, no doubt about it. But I mean, it's not like a league that I look and think, oh yes, let's go and get this. But also, we have to recognize it's incredibly situational, right? As to whether your situation is going to be a good one or a bad one. I think, as Grimm's outlined very, very well, this could be a really nice fit, tactically speaking, for Damion Downs at Southampton. I'm not all the way there on Damion Downs as a player. I think there are a lot of worlds this year where he ends up playing, 1,800 minutes and isn't an especially productive option for them. But at the same time, they are a team that has clearly identified him as a player that they think can be a key piece, and stylistically there's a good fit there. So I am somewhat optimistic about this move. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't need to see a ton of championship soccer on my screen throughout the week, I guess.
Joe, how much of it do you think is the perception that it's a second division? Because I think the championship is still a very high level. Like we talked about this before we started recording, that championship is a better league than Major League Soccer, quality-wise, across the board. Like, I wonder if you swap the championship with MLS, if we would be a bit more like, oh, okay, there's some good quality here. Like, I think for me, there is always just a little bit of it's the second tier, it's harder to watch, it can be a bit more physical, it's a bit more of a grind. I'm less excited about it, even though it's still a fairly high-quality league.
Yeah, for me, I think I recognize that the championship is a good league. Like, it's probably, one of the 10 best leagues in the world? Like, it is,
yeah,
it's
for sure.
a very, very strong league. I just don't need to watch teams bomb the ball up to... I think I'm just scarred by Daryl Dike. You know what it is?
Fair.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, as the purest embodiment of English championship proper football man soccer. It's just booting the ball upfield and bad camera angles and I don't know, all that stuff. So I wasn't intending to take an anti-Champo stance and really flesh it out because I don't have the material to flesh it out. Sorry.
there's definitely a vestige, like a leftover of that proper football man that's been squeezed out of the Premier League and they've resorted to the Championship, where like you will get, you know, I don't know, like a 20 million dribbly Argentine winger, but then you will also get Dean Windass scoring the winner in a playoff final, or like Charlie Adam like being player of the year one year. It's a strange league, and we experience this in Scotland where players who are rubbish up here go down to the Championship and hit like 15 goals in a season. There's a weird imbalance to that division.
Listener, if you'd like to learn more about the phrase proper football man, tune into our listener questions later this week on the feed. What a plug. Graham, we'll stay with the Championship for a moment. Patrick Agyemang, officially a Derby County player now. Obviously, we've covered this one on the feed a fair bit, but we know he's traded stake for Berger, going from Charlotte, North Carolina to the Midlands of England, but what else do we know?
Well, we know that he's going to play for John Eustace, which is one of the reasons that I find this move interesting. So I think generally it's probably a good time for Agyemang to move, because he has very quickly got to the point where he probably needs another jolt to develop further. And normally I would think a player at his age would perhaps be beyond the bulk of their development, but he's played so little senior soccer and he's had a really unusual career path to this point that I think he could still develop further. And the Championship is a tougher league all the way through. It's more like consistent all the way through than MLS is. So from that point of view, I think it's a positive move. John Eustace, he's the manager at Derby. He is, well, we were talking about this before we started recording. He seems to have made different impressions at different clubs, but from what I could find, he has in the past favoured possession football, which has that could be quite good for Agyemang, who needs to get comfortable with the ball. But he has at other times also favoured quick transition football. So I think it's a flip of the coin as to how he's actually going to get used, if he is going to be the Agyemang that we see for the US, which would make sense as to why Derby have moved for him, or whether he is going to actually get the opportunity to add more to his game, which as USMNT fans is what we would like to see. But the good thing for Agyemang is, and this is similar to what I've said about a few players here, about Downs and about Tillman, there is a spot up for grabs in this Derby team. They are desperate for goal-scoring forwards. That was a real problem for them last season. So there's an expectation that he will get a run in this team to prove himself. And this is a bit of a project for Derby as well, that I don't think they're expecting to win the title this season. I watched a little bit of a fan event that Eustace did with the CEO a month ago. He said that the aim for this season is the playoffs, and they want to go up to the Premier League within 3 seasons. So I think Agyemang is going to have a bit of a runway here. I don't think he is going to be judged immediately at Derby, which is just as well, because he's going to miss the start of the season through a hernia surgery, which is not ideal for him, because of course that opens the door for someone else to come in and make that spot their own. But broadly speaking, I am positive about this move, while accepting that Agyemang still has a lot to round out in his game to even, make this level work for him.
Can I say, Graham, we're not going for the title, we're aiming for the playoffs is a strong move for a team that finished 19th last year. Just saying.
Well, ambitious,
Yeah, got to have ambition.
I think he's a player who people probably aren't going to watch his games regularly for Derby in the Championship. And I think my assumption is going to be that they are going to be more of a counter-attacking team, more of a defensive team that springs those counters, and he will be doing a lot of hold-up play. And so I think he's one where if you already aren't impressed by him for the USMNT and you already have concerns about him starting for the USMNT, that's not going to go away by this move, at least initially, because I think it's going to be a lot of direct play, a lot of hold-up play, a lot of him just basically having to fight for everything and then get teammates around him to try to create something. So I don't think he will score a ton of goals right away. I very much hope I'm wrong, but I think he could still end up being a very reliable performer for them. I don't always love the player who kind of breaks through and then makes that move and kind of tries to go to England or tries to go to a higher league. And I think it oftentimes leads to them being on the bench or them not being played in a way that allows them to develop. This is a rare circumstance in which I think it's a good move for him, and I agree with Graham. I think it is the time to move. It is the time for that next level of development. I think a lot of that is self-interest on my part, because it seems like he is right now the third-choice striker for the U.S., but we kind of, I feel like, know what his strengths and weaknesses are, and so you go to a more competitive league with a higher quality around you, but also greater expectations, and you kind of have to sink or swim. And so I think we'll learn a lot about him this season, even if we don't learn a lot about him from the analytics standpoint.
Jolly good. One more move to talk about for this part of the podcast. Matt Turner to Lyon. Is that still in the mood? Still in the makings? This deal, right? Is
yes.
that correct? Yeah.
I'm very confused by this move because it at times gets talked about like Matt Turner's Lyon, and then at times he's not listed as playing for them, and that move doesn't seem to have happened yet. So I get very confused where we are.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
it's
they're
been
very
the works-
confused about what league they're in, to be fair, Taylor.
There is
Well,
that.
and that's a huge part of this, right? So the Matt Turner move from Forest to Lyon, as far as I understand it, was pretty much done and agreed to. And then Lyon got in big trouble with France's financial authorities, and that cast everything that they were doing into real question as to whether they were going to be relegated out of Liga or not. Eventually, they appealed after the initial decision was that they would be relegated out of the top flight. They appealed. That appeal was successful. And now it certainly sounds like the move for Matt Turner is going to happen for a reported $9 million. I think this is a great move for Matt Turner. I really, really do. Lyon is not a club that I would recommend players go to in general at the moment. But Matt Turner needs to salvage his career at the moment, right? I mean, his career is at a relative low point. And with a World Cup a year away and with a goalkeeper spot still really quite up for grabs, even though I do think Matt Freese has the inside track at this point. That's a cold take after he starts every game of the Gold Cup. But I do think that Turner still has a chance to climb back into that number one spot. And not that the U.S. men's national team is everything to all these players, right? We saw that this summer. They also need to make money and want to do well at the club level and play games every weekend. And I think Lyon is a place where Matt Turner could do that. So it was Lucas Perry, who was their starter in goal this past season. Reports are linking him to several different clubs. Leeds have been reportedly in for him. Roma, there's been some connections there. It looks like Matt Turner is coming to Lyon to be their number one, which is a refreshing thing for Matt Turner at club level. And that, if he performs well, could lead to him having greater opportunities, of course, for club and country. So I really like this move for Turner, assuming all the moving pieces come and settle in the places that they're supposed to. I think it's going to give him a legit chance to climb back into more relevant conversations around the U.S. and just around his career as a whole.
Joe, how much of it is like you like this move for Turner versus you would have liked any move that meant he was playing minutes?
Yeah, that one. It's not specific to Lyon,
right.
but getting to play at a good level in a good league and actually getting to play is being the most important part of that is certainly the real key for Turner this summer, and this move should accomplish that.
I'm late.
I mean, there's a chance.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, but and there's a chance this is going to be a bad Lyon team, right? Like,
yes.
Thiago Almada has... I thought he was a permanent Lyon signing, but I saw yesterday that he's joined Atleti from Botafogo. So clearly that wasn't a permanent deal, but Lyon seemed to be emptying out a little bit. The flip side of that is good shot saving practice next season. But that is a concern. Like there's a chance that he is in a Lyon team that isn't relegated this summer, but potentially could be fighting against that this time next year.
Yeah. But you've outlined it well, Graham. Like, if there's a position where that matters the least, it's goalkeeper, right? Where you're sort of playing your own sport back there, and you're viewed in a different way than the rest of the pieces of the puzzle. So it's a consideration. I think it's more of a concern for Tanner Tessman, let's put it that way, than it would be for Matt Turner.
Yeah,
I think I'm realizing I probably should have given Mauricio Pochettino more credit for the way he handled the goalkeeper situation this summer, because. And maybe this is a reach, but like if Turner comes in and is just still the starter, I'm sure he is still looking for a move. But if you're the USMNT starter, having not played at all in the last 2 years, like, are you as motivated to give up that salary? Like, maybe, probably because you want to play. But I still think the way he sort of was like, it's not a punishment to Turner. He's still in the conversation. We want to see what other options we have. But then Freese does enough that now you do have a little bit of pressure on you so that you do need to make a move and you do need to go somewhere where you're going to be starting. I feel like I should give Pochettino a little bit of credit for navigating that one well, that nobody comes out of that one feeling like they're frozen out. No one feels like they're taken for granted. I would assume both goalkeepers feel like there is an opportunity to start. So it ends up being a better situation than I would have expected going into the Gold Cup.
Excellent stuff. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the players who need a move and suggest where they might go. This is the Gio bit. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to USMNT Weekly. All right, let's focus our attention on a few players who maybe should find themselves pastures new for this coming European season. Gio Reyna, Graham. LAFC.
What? We never talk about him and how he needs a transfer or anything like that.
This is our platform to do so. The one small segment where we're going to do that, Graham. I've seen him linked with LAFC. Where else do we think he could land or should land?
Yeah, so LAFC is the club that keeps getting mentioned, or the team that has been mentioned most in the last week or so. Of course, it's obvious by now that Reyna does need a move because he basically isn't a soccer player anymore. He played 12 minutes for Dortmund
What
at
is
the
he?
Club World Cup. And those were garbage minutes. Yeah. He's got some time for his hobbies. Those were garbage minutes in the final group game against Ulsan HD, and that situation is not going to change. There was a chance with Kovac coming in last season that maybe he would have a different opinion, but if anything, I think Reyna seems even further down the pecking order now, where he doesn't play, the last 10 games of the season, doesn't feature at all. And Dortmund, they're in the market for a new attacking midfielder. James McAtee, mentioned him in the first segment of this show, has also been linked with Dortmund as well as Leverkusen. So it's over for Reyna at Dortmund. He needs to leave like yesterday. That much is clear. The problem is his stock is so low now, or it seems to be so low on the basis of just the lack of reporting and speculation and links. So obviously last season, kind of meaning like 2 seasons ago, he went on loan to a Premier League club, and that was seen as quite a notable signing for Forest, and obviously it didn't pan out. Now there is like no interest of that level in him, and so a return to MLS, I say a return because obviously he comes through the academy at NYCFC, but this would be the first time he's played like senior minutes in MLS. That seems to be on the cards, and I am at the point now where if he's going to play 90 minutes, that's the bar. Like if he's going to play, then I'm in favour, because it's been so long since Gio Reyna has been in that sort of situation. I have concerns over the style of play, and Joe might be able to might have a greater insight on this, but the style of play that LAFC play under Cherundolo I don't think is a great fit for Reyna. Maybe this would be a signing with a view to what they're going to be post Cherundolo, and maybe they build around Reyna and there's a stylistic change there as well. But the positive reading of this is it could be a sort of Landon Donovan-esque move for Gio Reyna, where he goes from this bad situation in Europe to becoming a key figure in MLS. Obviously, then that emboldens him for the national team. He becomes a key figure for the US until the end of his career, until Jurgen Klinsmann decides to end that for him. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Gio Reyna, and I think there's a world where LAFC could be a good fit, even if I do have some concerns and doubts.
Joe, do you mind if I jump in really quickly to say something about LAFC? I just wanted to add, weirdly, despite the fact that LAFC aren't a great passing team, they are a heavy possession team. They're 4th in MLS in possession percentage. They also need someone to unlock things on the pass, which I imagine is where they think Gio would fit in, so he would address a need for them for sure. It's just, can he actually play? That was the text that Joe sent me when I asked him this very question yesterday.
Like
it was
Will
either
Still
that
delivering
or I thought it was a backheeled article.
That was good, Taylor. I liked how it came out of your mouth. That was nice. I enjoyed that a lot. You just have a way with words. I've always said that.
Thank you.
I think Graham, Gio would solve a real need for LAFC if he can actually get on the field, right? That's a completely separate discussion from what we know of Gio Reyna, the soccer player, which we don't know a whole lot about these days. I think he would absolutely fit within LAFC's style. Again, yeah, Taylor said it quite well. They do have a lot of the ball. They're just not always great at using their distribution to actually get into dangerous areas, and that's what Gio Reyna is probably best at. So I think he would fit in that team. The question with Gio Reyna, right, and this is regardless of where he goes, is can he play soccer? And more than can he play soccer, which is already a high enough bar for a guy who hasn't played more than 700 league minutes in a season since 2022. We're in 2025, by the way, just to do a quick calendar check. The other question is, if he plays soccer, can he actually run? And the Scuff folks had posted this on social media yesterday from a great piece from Ryan O'Hanlon, which I would really recommend people going to read. Ryan is one of my favorites in the soccer media space. And Ryan O'Hanlon wrote this piece for ESPN about Gio Reyna and his inability to run anymore. And in that piece, there was a bunch of great nuggets. One of them is that Gio Reyna's max speed in the Bundesliga last year was dead last, among all Bundesliga qualified attacking midfielders. And that max speed metric is not just like the top speed you reach ever, right? That's a little cherry picky. It is calculated, that metric, as the average of your fastest speed in 5 different games. So you have a little bit of a bigger sample size. What kind of speeds are you hitting on a regular basis, right? Are you actually going and testing yourself athletically? Gio Reyna was last among qualified attacking midfielders in that metric, 8th to last among all Bundesliga outfield players. Gio sprints less than his peers. He hits fewer high-speed runs than his peers. He doesn't really run as fast as his peers either, as I've just laid out. We need to see him do those things. Like, it is possible that after injury after injury after injury, he just cannot do it anymore. And that's a problem. It is maybe not a career-ending problem if he goes to a lower-level league like MLS, going from the Bundesliga to MLS, certainly a big step down. Or I don't know, Portugal or the Netherlands or Belgium. I don't think there's been any reports about Belgium. If you drop down a level where the intensity is not as great, then Gio Reyna might be able to survive physically. But that would require him to actually play. And there's a whole host of issues about that we don't really need to speculate on. But I just want to see Gio Reyna go somewhere. I want to see him go somewhere where theoretically on a depth chart he would play. Not a Nottingham Forest level team where Morgan Gibbs White's about to gobble up all the minutes in your best spot. Like, no, you have to go to a place that needs you, that is going to give you opportunities to play and see if he actually takes it. Because if not, then he's not going to the World Cup. I think it's that simple.
I'm gonna do Joe's favorite thing and bring emotion to a statistics conversation, because I hear you with everything you're saying about his max speed of the Bundesliga, and where I then immediately go is that an injury thing? Is that an effort thing? Or is that an emotion thing? And is it him? I don't think anyone has ever denied the idea that he is a temperamental player and an emotional player at that. And I wonder if he knows I'm surplus to requirement. Nobody really wants me here. I'm being used where they need me as a stopgap measure and a substitute. And I wonder if that kind of bleeds into his performance and his effort or lack thereof. And that is the frustrating aspect of Gio Reyna, is that I can never really divorce that from him as the player. So I would love for him to go to a place where it feels like he will either enjoy playing soccer or play under a coach who is good with temperamental players, who has experience kind of bringing in an ego or bringing in a damaged ego at that and getting them to play well. And I'm not really sure who that is or where that spot is. It does feel like MLS would be a good landing spot for him to kind of maybe start enjoying soccer again. I can't shake a Ricky Puig comparison there of somebody who wasn't really fitting in, goes to a lower level, but thrives and really enjoys their football. And I think a happy, enjoying his football Gio Reyna isn't someone we've ever seen, or certainly haven't seen in the last 3 years or so. So because he's not an old guy, it's not the legs have gone. Maybe it is the injuries. I just wonder how much of that is effort and self-belief and positivity and the like, which I do put some value in. So if he does go to MLS, I would really love to see a rejuvenated, enjoying being a professional footballer Gio Reyna. I hope that could be the case.
Yeah, and I think that's a valuable point, Taylor, because that kind of illustrates how my personal framing of his situation has changed. He's not going to be... When he breaks through at Dortmund, I think everyone is thinking, oh boy, this kid might be the greatest American player of all time, I should say.
All time.
That's gone. The greatest American player of all time thing, I don't think there's a world where that pans out now. And so I just want to see him play and enjoy himself playing, and from that you then hopefully get better performances. So the bar is on the floor for me with Gio Reyna in that regard. And it has to happen this summer. He can't wait around any longer. Otherwise, his career is going to be in... I mean, look at how things have changed in the last year. I still think about that Real Sociedad move that was on the table. That was a real sliding door moment for him, where he had Nottingham Forest with one offer and he had La Real with the other. La Real was the team to join. They would have played the way he likes to play. There was a place for him in that team. I think La Liga is generally a good fit for him as well. And he went to Forest, and we all saw how that panned out for him. So, yeah, look at how things have changed in the last year. Imagine another year of him sitting on the bench at Dortmund where he's getting garbage minutes, and things could be even bleaker for him 12 months from now.
If you believe some of the reporting around that Nottingham Forest move, it sounds like there was one advisor who was saying Nottingham Forest is the answer. And pretty much everyone else was pointing in the direction of Sociedad. And I think, so we already know there's baggage. We already know there's just a lot going into this one. I sort of think, if he goes to LAFC, I still hate the Papa. If he goes to LAFC and, plays well but still looks miserable, it's going to be a bummer. I just would love to see a fresh start leading to a rejuvenated, enthusiastic Gio Reyna. I really don't want a situation in which he goes to MLS and you can sort of sense that he feels like this is beneath him. And I am putting a lot on a player that I have never spoken to, do not know personally, certainly. I just think that is the kind of my impression of him at this point. I feel like he would think MLS is beneath him. So to go there, I think would be a really good spot for him to kind of rediscover enjoyment of soccer and rediscover some form. But if it looks like he is also doing it while reading a hostage letter, I'm going to be more than a little bummed out.
Okay, maybe a brand new start on the horizon for Gio. Graham, what about Cameron Carter-Vickers at Celtic? Do we think a brand new start is required there?
So this is mainly my own argument, because while there were links to Burnley about a month ago, the trail, I haven't seen anything else on that. The trail's gone a little bit cold again. But my argument is, if CCV is going to take his development at Celtic, and he has developed at Celtic a lot over the last, 4 seasons now he's been there, and if he's to use that to move forward again, it feels like it has to happen this summer. And I made a similar argument last year, but he's 27 now. Celtic has been really good for him. What else can he realistically achieve there? I guess he could become like a relative club legend if he continues to collect titles, but in a broader sense, he's done all that he can do there. He made a run in the Champions League with Celtic last season, so tick that box as well. And I would like to see him make one more move to go one step higher with the World Cup next year. It kind of feels like it's now or never. The problem for CCV is that Celtic don't really have an incentive to sell unless they get an offer of somewhere close to like 10 million. I think that's kind of what it would take, like £8 to 10 million, because CCV's just he's a central pillar of that team. So Burnley or whoever, I think he was linked with Leeds as well in the past. It's always kind of promoted teams, or like teams that would be fighting relegation in the Premier League. Those are the ones that tend to get mentioned. Sunderland, I think, have been mentioned as well. Just all the promoted teams, basically. But yeah, my argument is I would like to see him make that move, just so that he can potentially make his case even stronger for next year.
So there is a level above Celtic. That's good to file away in the knowledge bank there.
Sterling Albion is what I've been told.
There we go.
Yeah.
Taylor, how about Josh Sargent? Should we have a chat about Josh Sargent?
Sure.
Obviously, maybe it looks like a move back to Germany might be on the cards from what we're seeing, but what do we think about his... Obviously, a quarter of us have made their feelings clear about the Champo, so what do you think?
I think I tend to agree with a lot of what Joe said about the championship. I refuse to call it the Champo. The Sargent situation is very confusing for a lot of different reasons, not least of which is his situation with the USMNT, or lack of situation with the USMNT. It does feel like he is very much on the outside looking in. It does feel like maybe that's not a bridge he can rebuild or fix or whatever it might be between now and the World Cup. But I do wonder if a move to the Premier League or to the Bundesliga would, at the very least, require additional viewing and additional conversations about Josh Sargent and what he can bring, because he feels a little bit like CCV at Norwich, or CCV at Celtic, Josh Sargent at Norwich, where he's been there, he's an established player, he's scoring a lot of goals, he's a very reliable player for them. I don't know if they would have a ton of impetus to sell. There were reports last year that Cincinnati offered 15 million, something like that for him, which was a good amount and was roundly rejected. So it seems like Norwich would want a good amount more than that for him. I'm not sure who's going to kind of pony up those funds. And so it seems like a situation in which he could use a move, doesn't necessarily need a move for his own kind of personal career and trajectory, but if he does want to get back into that conversation with the U.S., maybe a move to a higher league where he is going to require that conversation be had would be useful for him.
Yeah, I would love to see Josh Sargent get a move. Wolfsburg is the one that's been linked most aggressively recently, reporting from The Athletic, from others as well. It does seem like there's a lot of wind in those sails. That is not a Jonas Wind pun attempt, but Jonas Wind did score 9 goals for them last season in Wolfsburg. Mohamed Amora scored 10. Those were their 2 top scorers, both more central kind of forward striker options for Wolfsburg. Maybe one of those guys is headed out the door the other direction this summer. There's a little bit of smoke about that. We'll see what happens. We don't even know if Sargent is officially going to Wolfsburg yet. I would be really intrigued to see that move, because I think Josh Sargent has shown that he is a very good striker in the Champo, right? Just to really drill into that. I think he has shown, he's got real genuine production at a pretty efficient rate in both of the last 2 seasons. I think we've learned just about as much as we can learn from Josh Sargent at Norwich and Josh Sargent in the second tier in England. I would just be curious to see him do something new, right? Maybe this is like what Graham is saying with Agyemang, where they're very different players, and Sargent's played a lot more professional soccer than Agyemang has, but you're looking for a jolt to sort of spark something new or spark something different. In Sargent's case, that might not be like a new skill, where it might be for Agyemang. No, in Sargent's case, it could just be a slight revitalization of his career, and whether that looks like him getting back into the national team picture or not, I don't know. At the moment, I'd hedge against no, even if he does find that move, assuming Pepe and Balogun are healthy by next summer, which I suppose is not a guarantee. But either way, I would be curious to see Sargent take on a new challenge, because more than anything, I think he's ready for it. I think we've seen him be basically as good as he can be, and one of the better strikers in the championship. I'm curious to see what the next step looks like.
Very good. All right, lastest but not leastest, can we have a quick chat about the Serie A contingent of the US, specifically Yunus Musah, Tim Weah, and Weston McKennie? I'm not sure what the sort of transfer or stability situation is for any of these players. I suppose Musah's had the least minutes in recent times. But Graham, any feelings on whether these players need a move or need stability at this point?
I think the move that makes the most sense to me, or the move that has been speculated, would be Tim Weah to Marseille. Now, the reason that would make a lot of sense is because Luis Enrique has gone to Inter Milan, and he was Marseille's starting right wing back last season. That's where I have to imagine Weah would play for Marseille. It's a position obviously he knows well, especially at club level, where he's played a bulk for Juventus and going back to his Lille days as well. And Marseille, look, there have been times in the past when I wouldn't have recommended that move. Marseille are traditionally a bit of a chaos club, and there's probably going to be some chaos in the near future for them as well. That's just the way it is for Marseille. But they will be in the Champions League next season. They finished second behind PSG last season. Weah would be playing under Roberto De Zerbi, which could be quite fun, quite volatile as well, but a highly rated coach, so he could learn some things there. And Marseille, this is my sort of intangible vibesy case for Marseille. I think of Marseille as one of those clubs like Napoli, whereas if you're successful there, you're an absolute icon, and people who go there and are successful seem to really have an affinity for that club in the same way Napoli players do. And Marseille, they're a huge club. They're in terms of fan base, they're France's biggest club, ahead of maybe not now in the modern age, but traditionally they have been. It's a one-team city, so I think if Weah was to go there and be a real key player in the way that he just isn't at Juve, he has a role at Juve, he gets minutes, but he's a depth piece for that team, and I think he will be moving forward. If he goes to Marseille and he's a real difference maker, I think this could work quite well. Forest were interested. Weah decided not to go there. There was a spot with Anthony Elanga going to Newcastle United for him on the right side of the attack there. I don't really know any more on what his reasons were to reject that move. But yeah, there are things to like about Marseille.
From what I read, who knows what's true. He is currently on about €2 million a season. It sounds like he wanted to double that to around $4 million, which would have made him, I think, like 7th or 8th the best played players for Nottingham, but then not significantly higher than a lot of other players in that team, but maybe they balked at those salary demands. I think Spurs were also briefly interested, and they withdrew, so it clears the way for Marseille. Graham, am I right in thinking that there's a little bit of a misfit toys aspect to Marseille and their squad over time?
Certainly now.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those misfit toys that's a generous billing of some of those misfit toys to call them that, but yes, I think Marseille traditionally have had that sort of quality.
Tim Weah and Gio Reyna at Marseille? Let's make it happen.
Let's get them together.
Again, the interesting thing with this story is it kind of depends on what reporting is based on actually speaking to the player and fact, and what is based on impression, because a few different articles I read talked about how there is dissatisfaction in the player's camp with where he has been played by Juventus, the idea that he fancies himself as more of an attacker than he does a wingback. Interesting that he would then potentially be a wingback for Marseille. So if that is actually the case, that he doesn't want to be that, I don't know if Marseille makes the most sense. But if he's okay with that position, and I think he should be, then more power to him. And it gets him out of the repetitiveness of Italian cuisine. So that's another win for him.
He'll love that. Taylor,
he dodged that so well. He put all of that on McKennie so well. That was some craftiness by him.
McKennie's also just such an easy target for that stuff too. Tim Weah is a skillful, finessey guy. It doesn't take a lot of skill or finesse to dump something on Weston McKennie like that.
Nah, he played that chess match well for sure.
Yeah, he did. Taylor, I'm just looking through Marseille's squad. Mm-hmm. Very Turkish Super League. Angel Gomez. Ismail Kone is there, Højbjerg is there, Jeffrey Kondogbia, Geronimo Rulli, Neil Mope, Mason Greenwood, of course.
Wow.
All
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of names there.
What you're saying is, if we do another quiz on our Patreon, it needs to be did they or did they not play for Marseille?
I like it.
That's right, yeah.
I like it. We did the Weah of this contingent. McKennie has also sort of been lightly linked out of Juventus. This is the annual tradition. He'll be on the bench.
Time of year again.
He'll be on the bench for the first month of the season. He'll be an etched in pen starter by October. I'm not worried about that. The Yunus Musah side of things is, I think, of all of these three players, he's the one who needed to move most, right? Where he's been sort of trapped in a Weston McKennie positional hell, right, where he's not playing a whole lot in his best spot. And that's not just at Milan, by the way. That's also at the U.S. men's national team, which we see Pochettino right out of the gates play Yunus Musah as a boots on the chalk right winger. Not ideal. I want to see Yunus Musah go somewhere, and it does feel like he is very much done at AC Milan. Reporting is that Milan has offered him to other clubs in Italy. Forest have also apparently been in for Yunus Musah. I want to see Yunus Musah go to somewhere where he can be playing all of his minutes in central midfield. That is my own personal barometer for Yunus Musah ahead of this next season. I would be pretty surprised if that wasn't a real consideration for him as well. I think for Musah, it is at the point where dropping down a level or half a level from Milan to some other club where you can play a little bit of a bigger role and where you're being specifically recruited to do the stuff that we have some tape, not a lot in recent years, but some tape that says you can do that stuff really well. I think that should be the benchmark for Musah.
Joe, AC Milan sporting director was speaking the language of subtlety, Italian truly, the language of subtlety. See if you can pick up on whether or not they want to keep Yunus Musah. I consider Yunus Musah an excellent player, but we are looking for profiles with characteristics that fit the project we have with Coach Allegri. We are seeking deep-lying midfielders for a three-man midfield. Musah doesn't have these characteristics. He can play in a two- or three-man midfield, but with different characteristics. This is the real reason why we want to do something different.
I hear
Here's
he
the
is
box for your things.
Exactly.
We've also given your locker to someone else, so get out.
It feels like a move is maybe on the cards.
If you're trying to drive up value for the player you're trying to sell,
No.
Feel like the best way to do it?
It's the Garnacho strategy.
He started with Yunus Musah as an excellent player. Yeah. So as long as you stop reading there, you're done. Value driven through the roof.
But not
Mission
excellent enough for us.
That was a headline.
Right.
It was a Big Mac compliment sandwich of compliment, insult, and then kind of insult, compliment at the end.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, let's
Joe, really quickly, sorry. Do you have any thoughts on where you would like level-wise to see Yunus Musah go? Is it a place where he's going to start every single game?
I don't like any of those moves, any of those teams that have been mentioned. So Napoli was the one at the start of the window, right?
Yeah.
And I just thought he would be switching the situation he has at Milan for pretty much the same situation at Napoli with how strong their midfield is. The fact they've added, I know they're very different players, but you can only put 11 players on the pitch. Kevin De Bruyne has just joined Napoli as well. West Ham and Forest, I don't really like either of those either. Like, I don't think Musah at this moment in time for Forest starts ahead of Elliot Anderson. West Ham, I mean, I don't know what West Ham are as a team, so I guess there's a scenario where Graham Potter is remoulding that side and Musah's a part of it, but yeah, I don't really see how he works with Portable unless it's as a wing back. So, which we've established is not really where we want to see Yunus Musah. So I don't really like any of those moves.
My gut says, and the reporting I referenced out of Italy from Nicolo Schira, apologies if I butchered that, is that he's been offered to a couple of Serie A clubs. That I think would be my preference for Yunus Musah, would be for him to just drop to a mid-table Serie A team, to a team that desperately needs like a box-to-box kind of number 8. And for him to be that guy, for them to invest in him, to help him develop on the field, and for him to actually get back to playing some of really the exciting soccer that we saw from him at Valencia, where he could be at times this box-to-box number 8 in the middle of their 4-4-2 when he wasn't playing on the right wing for no reason. And really that those first glimpses that we saw of him with the U.S. back when he was first breaking in under Greg Berhalter, I think about that Wales friendly overseas. Like, that version of Yunus Musah is only going to come if we see him play in those kinds of positions. And in order to feel confident that Musah's going to be in those spots in central midfield, I think he's got to drop down a level. And the Premier League is not that. I think you're looking down the table in Italy.
What about like PSV or Ajax? Would you be all right with that, or would you rather him stay in Serie A?
No, that sounds great. Actually, I would very much enjoy that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Serie A. It could be a team in Portugal. I don't know if it's one of the big three or not. It could be really in that next sort of band of teams. I think anywhere in there where he's going to really get a good run is fine with me.
Yeah, the idea of dropping down to a mid-table Serie A team checks where Milan finished last season. Yeah, good, right, very good. Cool. All right, I think that's USMNT Weekly wrapped up nicely. Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much for your contributions as always, my good man.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Joe Lowery, thank you very much. Even if you're rude about the Champo, we still love you.
Oh, thanks, Ryan.
Graham Ruthven, pleasure as always, sir.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And listener, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of USMNT Weekly. We'll be back on the feed very shortly, but for now, bye!